Thoughtful Thursday. This is your host, May Renfroe, and I'm excited that you're tuning in. That you're going to catch this video, and excited what God has for you in this one, and what my guest is going to be sharing about today. My guest is Lois J. Rodriguez. She is the author of this Savoring Motherhood blog and writes on topics of foster care, adoption, and trauma parenting. So I'm excited about what she will share on that. And so if you could just go ahead, I guess, and tell us a little bit about your experience as a foster parent.
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I were married later in life and really wanted to have the opportunity to minister to kids, and especially kids from the foster care that are in the foster care system. So back in 2012, Eddie and I were licensed to be foster parents. Through the years, we've cared for kids, 7 days old, all the way up into the double digits. We've done respite care, we've done emergency care, we've done long term foster care, and we've had the amazing blessing of adopting 4 boys from foster care over the years.
Oh, you adopted 4, you said?
Yes,
4.
ma'am.
Okay, do that. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So our boys right now are ages 9, 11, 12, and 13. We have a busy home, but
Wow,
I love to
Lucy.
say I am just always surrounded by handsome men. So it's great.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
all about the same ages. Wow, a lot of eating would be going on. These
Oh,
boys.
yes. Yeah. I'm about to set up a GoFundMe just for our grocery bill.
I can imagine how they really put down the food at that age,
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. We
Oh,
um we adopted them at ages, and they weren't all adopted together. So the ages won't actually match up as siblings, but they were 2, 3, 3, and 6. Yeah, well, everybody was kind of close in age. We adopted 2 years apart, and one was a sibling group. And so, yeah, we kind of overnight grew from newlyweds to a family of 3, and then 2 years later, a family of 6. So we've been busy and just
oh.
loving the adventure because it truly is an adventurous journey.
Yes, and so you were fostering as still other children while you adopted these. Is that correct? So you adopted these from the foster system and then still had children, or
We adopted one from the foster
okay.
system,
Okay.
and then we closed our home, which means we weren't taking any other placements,
Oh, okay.
just so that we could really
Yeah.
nest with him,
Okay.
just get a chance to get him comfortable.
Yeah.
Um, and so then after that, 2 years later, we decided, okay, we're going to open up again. We got relicensed. It's a quicker process the second time around. But yeah, we got relicensed, and we said, you know what, we can take a couple of kids. And the day after we were relicensed, they called us and said, we have 3 boys. Would you be willing to take them? And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. 3 kids on top of the one we already have.
Okay.
And so, it took us 2 minutes to kind of look at each other, and we both nodded and we said, let's do it. So yeah, so our family grew exponentially within just a couple of years.
Okay. And then you went ahead and made the decision to adopt, like just
Yeah, we adopted Remy when he was 3.5, and then we adopted Ben, Maddox, and Jake when they were 5, 3.5, and 2.
okay. Wow. So yeah, that's what you went from overnight with just these little.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So now
Okay.
I just love to share about our time, not just as foster parents, but what came after. I write on topics of foster care and adoption from foster care, but when the gavel drops and says, okay, you're adopted, it doesn't mean that suddenly everybody's just one happy family. So I write a lot about
Mhm.
trauma parenting as well. Every child that comes out of the foster care system has had some kind of trauma,
Yeah.
whether it's just the trauma of being removed, and that's enough of a trauma in itself, but usually they've had to go through a very difficult journey before being removed from their first homes. And so the trauma runs really deep for our kids that have been adopted. So I do a lot of writing, a lot of research and writing on the trauma and how that affects behavior, how that affects attachment to parents, that kind of thing. So it's a pretty broad subject base.
Oh, wow. And that is what you do on your blog. So you, oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. So if some of my listeners would be interested in the process of becoming a foster parent, could you walk us through what that might look like?
Sure, sure. So, step one, find an agent. I like to kind of separate it out into steps like that because you can do one of two things. You can work directly with the Department of Children and Families in your particular state, or you can find an agency in your state. So that's a third party that works directly with DCF and then connects you with children coming into care. So the first step is to find an agency that you want to work with. For us,
Mhm.
we wanted to be working with a faith based agency. So that definitely went into our decision making process. But once you find that agency, what comes next is that you take classes. That agency or DCF, Department of Children and Families, will offer classes to become a foster parent, to be licensed as a foster parent. So those classes can be, a couple hours every week, or it could be an intensive 2 Saturdays and then that's it. So that's what we went. We were like, why drag our feet here? Let's
Yeah.
find an agency that's faith-based that will get us up and running so that our home can be available as soon as possible. So,
Oh, wow.
um,
Okay. Well, that's nice to know.
yeah, so there's just different options, but finding that agency is your first step. And then from there, they will guide you through the process. You'll need to take CPR classes. You'll need to prepare your home, um, locks on a pool, and safety
Mhm.
latches on the doors, and fire extinguishers in specific places. And so your home, you'll get a home checklist, and your home will
Okay.
need to be prepared.
And then they do like an inspection or something to make sure that you have done these things and it's safe and ready
Absolutely.
for.
You'll also need to meet with the fire marshal or fire department. They'll come in and make sure that everything is safe. And they're specifically looking for fire extinguishers and smoke detectors that are working in every room.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So then after that, you will go into the home study process. And that's where your agency will come in and walk through room by room, every part of the house. They will check and make sure that everything is safely where it needs to be. Um, they'll walk the outside of your property, and they'll
Mhm.
just make sure that any child coming in is coming into the safest possible home that they can. The home study is quite an intensive process. It can run anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, and they are meeting with everybody in the home. So if you have kids, they will
Oh,
meet
okay.
individually with each of the
Oh.
kids. And they're really trying to, a lot of people are like, oh, it's so much work.
Yeah.
But think about these kids who have come from trauma, who
Yeah.
have come from difficult living experiences. And the last thing these kids need is to walk into a home where things aren't safe and it's
Yeah.
just going from trauma to trauma. So if we
Sure.
keep that perspective, then we can understand why are there so many rules to follow? Why so much red tape? Um, so yeah, they come in, they interview. Our son that we had adopted was 5 when we went through a second adoption for a sibling group, and even he had to be interviewed. He was not even verbal at the time,
Mm.
but they would
Oh,
sit down and play with him a little bit. And they're just wanting to make sure that, you're not doing things with your kids or to your kids
yeah,
that
for sure.
would then happen to foster kids coming in.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
mm,
pretty much
yeah.
the process. After your home study, then everything gets compiled into your file, and then you will get your license. That
Mhm.
then means the phone could ring anytime. You could have little
Okay, so once you're
babies or
yeah.
teenagers coming in. It just means you're good to go.
Wow. So once you get approved and everything and on their list, then you're yeah available for the call when there's a need. Oh
That's
wow.
right. That's right. And the need is great. So you can pretty much expect a call quite quickly, unless your
Mm,
parameters in terms of the kids you'd like to foster are really stringent. I mean, if you come in and you say,
yeah.
listen, we just want to foster babies, you're going to be
Yeah.
waiting a little bit longer. But
Okay,
if
so
you
you can
give,
totally kind of put a range on that if that's what you're desiring.
absolutely, absolutely. And you're asked a lot of questions, things like, do you have pets in the home? You kind of think, well, that shouldn't be a big deal. But some kids might be coming in that in the past have struggled with pets. Either they're afraid of them or they've even harmed pets in their
Yeah,
home before. So you need to
yeah,
be
for sure.
ready to
Yeah,
answer that question. Do you have pets? And would you be willing to take in a child who has in the past harmed an animal?
yeah,
That's just one of many, many questions that they
yeah,
ask. But
yeah,
there's reasons behind every single question.
for sure. Yeah, and it's for the safety and the well-being for that child and for the home.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that makes sense for sure. Well, what are some of the statistics of foster care about foster
Oh,
care?
wow. Well, they change daily, but there is reporting that comes out for each year. So last year, I would say we hovered between 355 to 365,000 kids in the US foster care system. Sometimes they come in as individuals, sometimes they come in as sibling groups. So
Hmm.
that doesn't mean we need 355,000 foster families.
Hmm.
Um, but we do need 355,000 beds for these kids to sleep in. A lot of kids come into care and they sit in offices. There's not a family available to send them to, either because the families want younger kids or older kids than this child.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a real problem right now. And I'm specifically speaking to the US foster care system. But
Hmm.
there are not enough families. There just aren't enough families that are able to take in the kids. And also, there aren't enough families that are sticking with it. The
Hmm.
statistics say that after a year, the percentage of foster families that close their homes is very high, very high. Um,
Um,
and in addition, not just talking about kids in the foster care system, but kids adopted out of the foster care system or any other adoption. I find the statistic pretty staggering. There was a study done by USA Today investigators that were looking at adoptions and how many are long term versus how many fail. And the numbers that came back were seriously heartbreaking because there is an average of 12 failed adoptions every day in the United States.
Oh,
Every single
a
day.
lot.
Now,
Oh.
it's not just adoptions from foster care. We're also talking adoptions internationally. We're talking kinship adoptions, things like that. But 12 per day is the average that we're looking at, that kids who were promised a forever home suddenly are back in the system.
Wow, so
I
they
think it,
yeah, go back.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, how awful is that? You're a kid, you've been through terrible things, you finally find a family, you're starting to bond with them or whatever, and all of a sudden, boom, it just doesn't work. The family doesn't have the support they need. it wasn't this big grand fairy tale they thought it was going to be.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, to me, that's just staggering that today, at the end of this day, 16 kids might be losing their home. Uh, It's it's absolutely horrifying, and it's
Yeah.
actually one of
Very,
my
very sad.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Very sad. Sad.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. So, the thing is with foster care, not everyone is called to be a foster parent. And I think that a lot of people have an all or nothing idea that I can be a
Mhm.
foster parent or I can't be involved in the foster care system. But the truth is, this is a ministry. This is a ministry
Yeah.
that the Lord even talks about in James 1:27, I believe it is, about caring for the orphans. Well, this is, boots on the ground being Jesus to these kids.
Yeah.
And the you have to be called to this. If you
Mhm.
are not called to this, or if you are not backed up by the Lord, then I don't know how you're going to do it, because you spend a lot of time on your knees as a
Mhm.
foster parent, but not everyone's called to be one.
Yeah. You can imagine it is a lot of work and a lot on you when they've come from uh, traumatized situations and these troubled homes. And so it is hard, but it's very needed. It's very
Mm,
needed. But yeah, I can see it is it's a big thing just for anyone to take on. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. If I could say something like I was curious about the foster children that are waiting and needing the homes, do we have like orphanages much in our country? Is that a place children are before they? I don't know if this is
That's a great question.
on me about that. Curious if there's a kind of a place like an orphanage is while they're waiting.
Um, Here in the States, we wouldn't call them orphanages. There's
Okay.
group homes.
Oh, okay.
There's emergency placement homes. A lot of
Mhm.
agencies, actually, our agency had its own group home. So some kids that are really hard to place, unfortunately, are sibling groups, and there's a lot of them out there. But it's hard to find a family that'll take in 3, 4, 5 kids all at once. So a lot of times, kids that are part of a sibling group might end up in a group home, or an emergency placement. There's emergency shelters out there, but gosh, they fill up so quickly. And so I guess that's kind of the US equivalent of an orphanage,
Okay.
either a group home or an emergency type shelter.
Okay. Where they can kind of be what's being, taken care of in that process
Right.
of needing.
The truth is, though, that yeah, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. There's just so much going on with these poor kids. And what I was going to say is a lot of these kids do not end up in a place with a bed, meaning they might spend the night in a chair in their caseworker's office, because
Oh,
there's just not a place to send them.
yeah.
And can you imagine? I mean, I see so many um, SOS and urgent emails go out
Mhm.
to foster parents saying, "Listen, Thanksgiving's coming up or Christmas is coming up. We don't want these kids to be sitting in a cold office, that we want them sitting around your table for Thanksgiving
Mhm.
lunch or around your tree." Or um, so a lot of these kids, there's no room for them. So they end up in offices. They just do not have the room for place for kids to go.
Mhm. Oh wow. So, they, you say that not everyone is called to be a foster parent, but what are ways that individuals or churches can help other than being a licensed foster family?
This is my favorite question.
Mhm.
um, One of the biggest things that was difficult for us, I thank God that He just sustained us as we went through our very first adoption. Um, but we were not living anywhere near family. We had basically moved recently to the area that we were living in. And so we didn't have any church family to support us or anything. And so we end up with a young boy, and we had no help whatsoever.
Mm.
Because again, people think it's all or nothing. You're a foster parent, or there's nothing that you can do. But the truth of the matter is, I always say every foster parent needs 4 resource parents. Um,
Mm.
and that can just be from their friends, their group of friends, or it can be from their church, or it can be from, if you're a small neighborhood or a small community, a group of people that commit to supporting the foster parent. Um, and you could divide it up by saying, maybe you have one person that'll provide a weekly meal, or um, um, forever, not forever, for how long is needed. Sometimes it's a whole year. Could you commit to a
Oh,
whole
okay.
year to bring
Yeah.
a weekly meal? Um,
Oh,
so one resource that's needed is somebody to provide meals. Another one would be, are you able to show up and just fold laundry once a week? I
mm.
mean, some parents, like we had a group of 3 that were placed with us a number of times, and
Mhm.
you're drowning in laundry by day 2.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
just having somebody come, and essentially it's people coming in to support the foster parent, so the foster parent can do the job of fostering.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
so if
for
I
sure.
have somebody, making a meal for me, if I have somebody helping me fold laundry, um, if I have somebody willing to come in and just come play with my kid for 3 hours, read a book, watch a movie, whatever it is,
Mhm.
then maybe I just need a nap.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah.
that's another resource you need. Somebody who's willing to come and babysit your child. There used to be rules back when we were foster parents. The rule was that to be able to even be in the home with a child for more than an hour or 2, you had to have a background check. It was
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
So we were always trying to coordinate, how is family gonna come to stay over
Um,
Christmas, that kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah.
And just as we were closing out our home after our fourth child adopted, um, they started changing the rules. They started changing the rules because these kids need a sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
They can't be singled out like this, like, oh no, I'm not allowed to do a sleepover, or I'm not allowed to have friends over, things like that. So I just thank God that the rules were changed, but um, that means that anybody can come in as long as that person is trusted by the foster parent.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
anyone can come in and offer babysitting. Um, you can also have kids cared for like the weekend. Oh my goodness, if we could have had just a weekend
Mm.
to reconnect, my husband and I,
Yeah.
because you're just running 1,000 miles, just trying to get everything handled.
Oh, I can
So that's
imagine.
why I say really 4 resource parents, one for meals, one for housekeeping, one's for babysitting or transportation. There's a lot of appointments these kids have to go to. So, a babysitting or
Oh,
transportation
wow.
person, and then maybe an overnight respite care so that the families can have a little bit of breathing space to
Yeah.
just chill for a bit. So that's kind of that's what I love to share is, if you're not called to be a foster parent, don't be a foster parent. Don't just say, well, it's the only option to help kids and really be the feet of James 127. And
Mhm.
the truth is, there are so many people that are needed to help the foster parents. So
So
if
to
you have
help
any,
in other areas. Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
To help in the other areas, to help support those that are doing the
Exactly.
foster. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is a great option for churches. Um, I know that your channel here for tonight, for Thursday night, is called Thoughtful Thursdays. And if every single church would show up and have one family that is their foster family, one individual or one family in the church called to be a foster parent, we could not have the crisis that we have today with our foster families. Um,
Wow.
I don't remember how many. I thought I had written it. Oh, there it is. There are 314,000, give or take, Protestant churches in the United States. So if you
Wow.
remember, I said there's 355,000-ish kids in foster care. Some of them are going to be, sibling groups. Some of them are going to be just individual kids. But if every Protestant church had one family that is licensed to be a foster parent and then is surrounded by a group of resource individuals, then our foster care crisis of kids sitting in chairs and offices could be eradicated. Just
Ah,
one family in every Protestant church. That's your
ah.
thoughtful Thursday. Think
There you
about that.
go. Wow. Think
Yeah.
on that one. That is
Hmm.
big and wow. And
Yeah.
it's like that's what we're to do as God's God's children to have some
Exactly.
good Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So we could
big.
just end it right there and just say, there you go. There's your new church ministry. But no, I mean really the it's a great option for churches to step forward when an individual or a family steps out. That family steps out and says, I am on ministry, I am called to be a foster parent, and then the church steps up and
Mhm.
they say, we're going to surround you. And it's not just going to be for the week after your child is placed.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to surround you for X number of months.
For the long haul or whatever. And it,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
That would sure make a difference because if it's one
Yeah.
family trying to carry this load, and it
Oh,
is hard, as you said, in so many ways and so many details and things, that man, that would really change that for that
yeah.
family and for those children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my God, wow. So, do you have anything you can share with my listeners to help them step into any of these roles that we've discussed, or did
Oh,
we kind of cover that? Is there more to
well,
cover in here?
yeah, I actually have a resource that I've prepared, and I'm going to get it up on the website today, so that your listeners, if they're interested, they can jump on my website and download this resource. And it's basically a foster parent and a church resource kit. Um,
Okay.
so it'll go through the steps that I talk about in terms of becoming a foster parent, but again, that's just one step in the whole process. If others are not called to be a foster parent, but they want the ideas that I've shared and even more ideas that I have on this kit, about how can I as an individual support a foster family that's a friend of mine or in my community, or how can my church step into this new role. So I have all of these things put together as a resource kit, and up on my website, you'll just get a little pop up that says, if you're interested in it, and you can download that and take it to your pastor, take it to your community leader, whoever that can start building these steps needed to surround a foster parent. I think that would be great.
Okay. Oh, that sounds really good. So we would have like a link that we can share, right? I can put in the
Yeah.
description for that.
All
Okay.
all you need is to go on my website, loisjrodriguez.com. I'm sure we'll have a link in here somewhere,
Hmm.
maybe in the comments.
Yeah.
And once they pop onto my website, that's my author website because I am authoring a book about this subject.
Mhm.
Um, but they'll immediately see the option to download that resource kit.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. Would you like to go ahead and briefly tell us about your book that's coming out?
Sure, sure. I have been writing this for about 5 years, and wasn't writing it for the purpose of doing a book. I was originally blogging my entire journey just for our family to
Oh, okay.
see
Yeah.
what was happening day to day and week by week with our kids. What were
Yeah.
they doing? And I'm not talking about their school art projects. I'm talking about today I've got a court date for this, and just sharing about what happened, and I was up on the stand, and here's what I talked about. And the purpose really for my book, it's really threefold. I want to educate those who are curious about the foster care system, about becoming a foster parent. So I'll go a lot more in depth than what we talked about here in terms of how to get licensed. Um, it's also an encouragement for current foster families. Oh, goodness. Do we need to be encouraged day by day by day? And I think our story would provide a lot of encouragement through each of the chapters. I throw in some funny stories, some, oh my goodness, I can't believe we survived this stories, just all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff to say, listen, you can do it. We did it. Here's how
Yeah.
you will make it through today.
Yeah. Someone say
Um,
you're not alone. I've had these crazy days,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. And then lastly, because I'm a good little Baptist girl, I love the three E's. The educate,
Okay.
the encourage, and lastly, I just want to empower churches, individuals, communities,
Yeah.
just to surround foster parents. And I go into a lot of detail on how to do that. So today's talk is kind of a little blurb, and the resource kit you're going to download is just a little bit more information. The book
Mhm.
will go into just so much more, weaving our story into the three E's.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, good. So, what are some ways that my listeners can connect with you if they have questions about foster care or supporting foster families?
I would absolutely love to hear from them. I would talk about this all day long. You can see I'm not shy about it. There's just so much encouraging to do and so much information to impart. I have three social media channels that I'm on: Facebook,
Oh,
Instagram, and TikTok. All of them can be found under Lois J. Rodriguez, author. Um, so the my name is the same across those platforms. My blog is hosted at Pathos, but I also bring it in through my website. So my website is just Lois J
oh,
Rodriguez, Rodriguez, .com. And so my blog can be read there anytime I have media going out about what I write. Your a link to your YouTube channel from this interview will be there. So that's kind of the hub
yeah.
of everything.
Okay. Yeah, and we could put all that in the description here on this on YouTube video too. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, you sure had a lot to share with us about this, and I can see your heart is all in it, and there's such a
Hmm.
need. So I hope
Hmm.
that really speaks to those that we all have a role to play in a way, is what you said. And so, is there a few other little things that you would like to share before we kind of wrap up? Close? Anything we missed?
Um, just step up. Just step up. That's all I
Mhm.
ask is
Yeah.
find a family. If you're not called to foster, you're still called to do something. And it could be something as easy as just writing a card to a family that has a new foster child, or, being a secret sister or secret brother to that child, or a pop up birthday party box. Just so many ideas.
Everything.
Um, but
Yeah.
just step up and fill that gap.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just as we are to be as God's children. And there's I hear often there's a prayer that we should pray that says, break our hearts, God, with the things that break your heart. And this is an
Yes.
issue that's got to be breaking God's heart with these children, because all children are loved by God, and there's no one that's not, cherished and special, and just worthy of a home and his love. And so, for sure, these things that break God's heart should break our heart. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
for sure.
completely agree.
Yeah, well, I just thank you so much, Lois, again for being on with me and sharing all these great things about the foster care and um, adoption. and all of this, and I'm sure this will be a big help to those. And
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for letting me just chat with you and your viewers about this subject.
okay, thanks. It's been an honor to have you here. So, all right, well, you take care. All right, God
Thank
bless.
you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.